Now, every coach is different. He's not Dan. He's definitely not Dan. And listen, you're measured by wins and losses. So wins have to parlay. And I anticipate in a division that's so wide open this year, because the North has been so good, everybody has to go into this thing thinking they can win it. If you don't have that mentality in this division, you're going to finish last. And you might still play okay in doing so. I think Ben has that. I just have been really impressed with, and listen, we're going to until we're blue in the face. He doesn't have to worry about the defense. Dennis Allen it's great to see him back and rejuvenated after, how things ended for him there in New Orleans. But Ben gets to focus on the offensive side of the football, and that is important. And
let's bring in Stacey Dales, who does outstanding work on the NFL Network, and she broke through as a broadcaster for the Bears, the first woman broadcaster in the Bears booth for these preseason games. I tell her all the time when I see her at Halas Hall just how good she is at her job. And she joins us right now on the Yingling guest hotline. Stacey, congratulations. Great work.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much. I would say right back to you, two of my absolute faves and have been forever. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Stacey, how did you enjoy the work in the booth?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, you guys know, we've done this for so many years. And it's my life. Football's my life. I'm a junkie, so I had a blast. Adam and Jim couldn't have been two greater teammates. They welcomed me with open arms and were so kind and courteous, respectful. It was really just an honor to work with them and with the organization. It was just a first-class experience, and I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome.
And, I think it also culminates at a really exciting time for the franchise that I think you and I can both agree that we haven't felt in a while.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about it. What did you learn most about Ben Johnson by being around him as much as you were this training camp?
Oh, he's a maniac. He's in a good way. He's a maniac. He has such a vision and really plan that is just so strategic to me. All the great coaches that I've been around, whether it was me as a basketball player or in the NFL for 17 years now, the truly great ones, they're a little bit odd. They're extraordinary. They have, quirks, things they do, things that they practice, and they have standards. And I think Ben has all that stuff, and we haven't even played a game. Just to see the level of standard rise without game action is in itself really remarkable. Now, you could argue, well, anytime there's a new regime in the NFL, everybody's on their best behavior, as the players like to say. You got to be on your P's and Q's, right? But I think with Ben, it's real. To hear some of the stories of the details, like we shared one in the broadcast, Austin Reed, who obviously was waived. What a great young man he is. Just giving us an example of Ben Johnson's expectation for detail. You say it as simple as I can, you throw a 25-yard completion. It's a great play, it looks like to all of us, but the quarterback executes it with a 3-step drop when he should have actually used a 5-step drop. Ben isn't happy. It doesn't matter that the play was a completion. What matters is the footwork and the fundamentals because, as it was explained to us, and it makes perfect sense, in a game, you're facing the Minnesota Vikings and you get a quirky-looking coverage from Brian Flores, and that 5-step drop suddenly becomes incremental in the timing of it being a positive or a negative play. So those are the things that, I surely would think Jared Goff would attest to, and I think Caleb Williams will as well.
Stacey Dales is joining us, Waddle and Silvy on ESPN 1000, and you gave us a pretty good scouting report on him, knowing what he was like in Detroit in all your coverage for the NFL Network. So as you've seen this happen, whether you talk to him in production meetings or you talk to Austin Reed, as you just mentioned, or just being out there, Stacey, as much as you have, is he even better than you thought he would be as a head coach? Because a lot of people said, look, it's one thing when you're the OC and you have Dan Campbell as the figurehead. Has he taken the head coaching job and run with it from an accountability standpoint?
Yes, he has. And now every coach is different. He's not Dan. He's definitely not Dan. And listen, you're measured by wins and losses. So wins have to parlay. And I anticipate in a division that's so wide open this year, because the North has been so good, everybody has to go into this thing thinking they can win it. If you don't have that mentality in this division, you're going to finish last. And you might still play okay in doing so. I think Ben has that. I just have been really impressed with, and listen, we're going to until we're blue in the face. He doesn't have to worry about the defense. Dennis Allen it's great to see him back and rejuvenated after, how things ended for him there in New Orleans. But Ben gets to focus on the offensive side of the football, and that is important. And, to hear Caleb talk about how calm he is in the headset, I just think that Ben's plan, he's been executing. It's almost like every day has been right down to the details. The amount that they gave him, the amount they're going to now curtail for Caleb specifically. The preseason frustrates me just because we just don't see what the true playbook is. We might see a couple flashes, like the 12 personnel or, the way they're going to, like I thought DeAndre Swift was one of the positive takeaways for me against the Chiefs. I thought he showed some burst. He was 4 yards per carry. It didn't get a lot of action, but I think he's going to figure into this pass game quite a bit. We see a few wrinkles, but I just seen what Ben is really going to cook up for Caleb. I just don't. Obviously, we haven't, but it's that part of it's going to be very interesting to me. You go up against the Chiefs, first-team defense, albeit a preseason game. I get it, but they struggled out of the gates. And when I went back and watched some of that game, to hand the ball off to Olamide Zaccheaus, who's been fantastic. Maybe Ben's going to start a little differently than doing that. I'm not sure. That was an interesting decision. You know what I mean, right out of the gates, and it's loud there, even though it wasn't sold out. That is one of the loudest venues in the NFL. It goes up against Seattle and Detroit, and Detroit's coming up in week 2. So it was good maybe to see some of those mistakes because now they can correct some things and how they come out of the gates. But I just think it's going to be fun to see what he dials up.
Stace, obviously the relationship between Ben and Caleb is crucial. It's critical. How would you describe that relationship and how it may have evolved over the course of training camp?
It's like a professor and his pupil. They're in the room together, and listen, I wish we could all sit in the room and listen to it because I would think it would be pretty fascinating to work in there with Ben. And players have told me that it is. But he is your play caller, and he is your head coach, and he's not putting up with anything. Nothing. Like, when Sylvie mentioned accountability, there is a level of accountability that, as we've talked to players, if you don't do it his way, you're going to get left behind. And to see Caleb has really willingly accepted that, as he has to, but wants to more than anything. I think you realize when you have Ben as your coach that you can be really good if you have the right coaching. You see it all over the league. You can't make it up. Like, my first game is in Brazil with the Chiefs and the Chargers. Two well-coached. Look at what Jim Harbaugh's already done to turn things around with the Chargers. There's just Pete Carroll with the Raiders. There's something special about some of these coaches. I think Ben's going to be a really good head coach for a long time, and I think that the players respect him, and when he says it's bad, they take it to heart, and they try to fix it.
Stacey, when how the national media works, and I'm not saying this is how you work for the NFL Network or everyone there works, but for the most part, there are these really polarizing topics, whether it's the Cowboys, that gets a lot of play, whether it's Shedeur Sanders these days. And I feel like Caleb's in that group where against the Bills, he does what he does, and everyone's like, oh, him and Ben are off to the races, and they're great now. And then after this game against the ones, they don't look like that. He's slow. He's not playing on time. And I heard Ryan Clark say today on ESPN that if he doesn't play well, he's going to get the treatment like they're giving to their first-round pick in Indianapolis. It's like it's all over the map. So, in your opinion, is Caleb Williams where he's supposed to be? Is he ahead of schedule, or is he behind where you thought he would be?
I think he's kind of in the middle. I don't gauge preseason. Whether it's 1v2 or 1v1. I mean, you want to put something good on tape, right? But how are any of us supposed to take an all-22 and break it down and be super analytical when there's no game planning, there's no strategizing taking place, other than the fact that they had joint practices, the Bears did, against the Dolphins and the Bills. They came out and looked decent against both of them in preseason games. And they didn't see the Chiefs. They don't know what, you guys know what Spags does defensively. I mean, he's even in preseason, they're figuring out what their personnel is defensively. But you got Chris Jones coming down the pipes at you in a preseason game. I mean, and we saw him hold the ball a couple times. I get it, but I think it's a small sample size, so it's kind of hard to measure. I think once we see Minnesota, okay, now you guys can be critical if you've watched the tape. I always have a lot of pause when I'm not around a team all the time. If you want to come and attack any player in this league, please do so based upon either the tape or your time spent on task with the team, right? I think that's so important. When you're not there every day, like this entire beat is, like you guys are, you have to be careful in your criticisms. And I just think that it's hard to criticize preseason tape. I know it didn't look very good. I was in the booth watching it, and as a Bears broadcaster, so you want to keep it positive. He missed a check down. He held the ball too long. He ducked his head. One of the things that you see Caleb do is, and he did this last year, is he ducks his head. If you watch Patrick Mahomes when the play's broken, he's still always got his head up, eyes level downfield. And that's just an area for a young quarterback, I think, as I've watched the game for so long and studied it, that is going to have to become a huge part of Caleb versus, ducking and always thinking, he was sacked 68 times last year. And some of those were on him because he held the ball. So you either have to get rid of it or make a decision. I'm going to get to my second or third progression or whatever it may be, or I'm going to keep my head up and I'm going to start to go. And I think that's just going to happen when the regular season gets here. But it's such a test out of the gate with Brian Flores. There's no question about it.
Stacey Dale's joining us. Stacey, let's react to breaking news in real time. The three of us here. We've done this with guests before. So, Charlie, you want to hit the breaking news sounder?
This is Breaking News, brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Yeah. Breaking news on ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports.
Brought to you by the Advantage Auto Group, and the Advantage Auto Group also brings you the Bears pregame show that Waddle, me, and Dion are a part of. Stacey, it looks like that Hendrickson and the Bengals here, Trey Hendrickson, Waddle's dream is dead because they have reached an agreement in Cincinnati. And what Shefty is reporting is that he gets a $14 million raise for this season. So that will give him $30 million for this year's pay. And then he becomes a free agent next year. So what do you make out of this? And would you have liked to see the Bears go after him?
It's funny this comes up, and good for Trey. Trey's awesome. The guy has been a sack monster. He doesn't miss a game. I can't believe the Bengals let it go this long, but they're the Bengals. And
good point.
Unfortunately, it's you re-up all of your stars offensively. You have one of the best potentially. Joe Burrow's movement reminds me of Tom Brady when I watch him. Just the way he dances on his toes. He's obviously more mobile than Tom, and he's not Tom. But I just think his cerebral nature, the way he sees the game, he has the potential. He should, he's been to a Super Bowl already. The guy's really special. But to not, address your defense 3 months ago, Now, for the Bears, it's interesting it comes up because I had a conversation on the field with somebody on Friday about, hey, what about Trey Hendrickson or
Micah?
Micah, thanks. And it was kind of the idea that if you are that player away from, you're going to the dance if you get that guy. Maybe. But it occupies so much money over the long haul that it has to really be a reason to go do it, like we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. And I don't know, do you guys think the Bears are a player away from that?
I don't, but now's the time to make moves like this. This is my perspective. You've got a quarterback on a rookie contract. Like, if you're going to tell me that Dayo Adangbo at 30 whatever million guaranteed was a really good move, he has 16 and a half sacks the last 4 years. Trey Hendrickson has 57.
Right.
He
gets 16 and a half sacks in a year.
That's 40 and a half more sacks over the course of the last 4 years. Like, look, I know that you didn't have to give up any draft currency for Adangbo, and you would have for Hendrickson. But to me, I would say, Stace, I would say to somebody, did the Commanders did people expect the Commanders to be in the NFC title game last year? Did anybody expect Sam Darnold to leave the Vikings to 14, 15 wins? So you never know when. And by the way, adding someone that's accomplished like that, in what my opinion is the second most important position in all of professional football, it makes you a better team. And that's the goal every year, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I had my choice, I would absolutely have Trey Hendrickson on my team. In the last 5 seasons, it's T.J. Watt that leads the NFL in sacks.
Yep.
The guy right behind him and right on his tail, and also QB pressures.
Yep.
But the guy right behind him is Trey Hendrickson. He had 17 and a half in 23. He had 17 and a half last year. He had, by the way, 2 other seasons, to your point, Waddle, 14 and 13 and a half sacks. Like, he's just a production monster. And I mentioned he barely comes off the field.
And he has no one on the other side from him. He's doing it by himself.
Yes. And people will say, well, go look at his run grades. Like, screw that, man. Like, his job is to rush the passer and affect the passer. That is why T.J. Watt, when was the last time somebody said, gosh, I wish T.J. Watt was a better run defender? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't care about that. That's why you need to make sure you have, who has a problem, too many defensive tackles? Like Brian Flores in Minnesota, they have a defensive tackle overload. They're going to be really freaking good defensively. Yeah. I mean, they had to get rid of Harrison Phillips. Like, that's unbelievable to me. Like, and I don't use that word a lot, but they have some good problems up front in Minnesota. But, like, if you're the Bengals, I find it very confusing why it took this long. But I also look at organizational history. I would have loved to see him as a Chicago Bear because he's also a good guy. You know, he's like he's a dream to have on your roster. And Cincinnati's defense was really bad. Al Golden takes over this year, obviously, as their defensive coordinator. Lou Anarumo's now the defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. But I look at their defense, and I they've got in the middle, they've got Slayton, they've got B.J. Hill, they've got then Trey. I mean, if you don't have Trey Hendrickson, are you even considering the fact that you have to get better? Like, so, and I'm not trying to slam the Bengals. I just, I know Andrew Whitworth, and I've had conversations with him over the years about, his time there. There's a reason he went to play for Sean McVay, where he felt so wanted, and then they win a Super Bowl. I just wish sometimes, like, you see the value in a player and just get it taken care of.